What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I am joined with the ridiculously good-looking father of I don't know how many, but two, Daddy JJ, also known as ChronoJJ. How you going, my friend?
Hey, I'm good. It's good to be doing a little dual cast match with you. Nice to switch things up once in a while.
Oh my
So it's
god.
fun to be here.
It's so much
I'm
fun to be
excited. I don't
here.
know the results.
Me either, funnily enough. Maybe we should talk about the players, because there seems to be a red player at the bottom of the map here playing as Ra, who you may or may not be aware of. He hasn't dropped a game this entire tournament. His name is Kimo.
It
What a
is
time
Kimo.
to be
He
what a
is
time to be
good.
alive. And in the top of the map, his opponent today, in the blue color, playing as Set, he has in fact dropped a game. His name is Shelty. However, we are in the playoffs now. What's different about the playoffs here? This is crazy. We've got something new happening. Everyone was complaining about too many Mediterranean games, and did we do something about that, or what happened?
Yes, we did do something about that. There'll be no meta at all ever in the rest of the term. No, no, that's not it. It's a best of five, and we have pre-selected the 5 maps for each match. And the first map of each match is going to be kind of a slightly non-standard map. The other 4 will be from the standard map set. So yeah, in the first game, as we see here, it's this new-ish map called Fields of Punishment.
What?
What a
What is
name.
this? I've never seen this map before. Wait, we saw it in the Bill Gregg Open, didn't we? Yes, I know what this
We
map's
did.
about. It's got a lot of boar on the map. It's got some of those crazy walking berry bushes, which kind of do nothing but harass some random scouts, and the gold mines are ever present. So we
Yeah,
might be,
it's
yeah.
it does have some defensive gold mines as we can see. Kimo's got a really nice one behind his base, as does Shelty. But the amount of hunt on it also kind of makes maybe a little bit more aggressive than what you would maybe think it would end up being. But it is set versus Ra.
Yeah, Kimo has been having a lot of success with Ra in this tournament. He plays a very boomy play style, really hyper defensive, but gets all his economic upgrades, gets all his technology, and he generally hits that late game a couple minutes before his opponent and can finish games off in that moment really well. Has some really nice pushes, some nice Egyptian laming for you guys.
Yeah, the one thing that I always look at in Ra v Set matchups is where the town centers are, because Set with the early map control can often get Ra's forward town center, and that's kind of his way to win, is to go 4 to 2 town centers and then just kind of outlast that huge Set mid to late game push. But with where the town centers are, it will be tough, I think, for Shelty to realistically grab and keep one.
Yeah, this has got to be a perfect map for Chemo. Both the town centers are forward, but the push is just generally speaking, the push here is not going to be that strong. The map is a little bit big, and for Shelty to traverse there and then hit one of Chemo's town centers, you gotta expect Chemo to be able to defend that. So Shelty may have to dive into a bag of tricks to take some of the map away from Kimo early and prevent him grabbing the town center completely as an option.
Shelty is aging up quite a bit quicker than Kimo is, so
Yeah, we do see him going up. He's at 50% through tar right now, so going to be hitting the classical age very shortly. And Kimo's just taking his sweet time, which is kind of fine, I guess.
yeah, that's right. It doesn't really matter how fast he goes up.
It looks like he's going to be clicking advance at like 412. So that is going to be a 512 advance time. And sometimes we've been seeing, well, I remember back in the Bill Gregg Open, we were seeing like the Joe Chemo Egyptian mirrors where Kimo and Joe would just go for an instant 3 town centers on these high hunt maps. And with Kimo with only 8 villages on gold, it looks like maybe that meta is slightly shifted away from that, or maybe Kimo's just like against Set, he doesn't want to risk that one. But I definitely think that an option here for Shelty would have been to go up a little bit later on this map and try that Joth fast 3 town center 9-minute heroic strategy. And then possibly be able to compete with a 2 town center tar from Kimo, but obviously not what's happening here. Is he does grab his 2nd town center.
Yeah, I agree with that. The problem is it is hard to match that raw boom. So maybe that's his worry, is that he doesn't think he can keep up with 3 town centers. But I think it's, especially in a high hunt map like this, I think it's almost what you have to do.
I mean, the other option for Shelty is to go for like an elephant style all in onto a town center where Kimo won't be able to just kill off the siege, quote unquote, with his villagers, which is normally how Rara defends against the Egyptian pushes, because Egyptian players just love to go Chariot Archer, Siege Tower, Scorpion Men, and try and make a push with that, and then it gets defended really easily with those Skin of the Rhino villagers. But if you make out a couple of elephant early, then the villagers can't kill those off, and they do really well against the town center. So if you get a nice fast heroic age here for Shelty and then go for that with all of this hunt, it could be an option, but definitely a tough ask, as we see Kimo getting his 2nd town center and throwing all his farms down.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of how many Shelty has on berries right now. I feel like he could be hunting more and aging up faster.
Yeah, he obviously hasn't really chopped much wood yet, so he can't go into his herdables. He's got some bear in the back of his base. He's got a bunch of animals chilling on the 2nd town center over here with the 2 boars, those 2 gazella set that he should eat first before he goes onto the berries. Probably could have even built out a 2nd priest and converted more of those boars in the middle of the map, and had so much more hunt in his main base to just have a really nice time in the classical age. When we see a nice snipe there onto Kimo's Wadget that was scouting around. Not going to be too missed by Kimo. It's not that useful in this matchup, but a nice snipe regardless for Shelty. Got to be happy about that one.
And I just think he should be forward more on his hunt, because once the Ra gets too heroic, unless you have the entire map walled off, which this is hard because it's wide open, Shelty really isn't going to be able to get on any of its forward hunt anymore. So I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And both players going for a pretty late advance time. I see 17 farms for Kimo, which means that you're going to be advancing very late because you need to have the extra gold in. If we check the resources out, we see Kimo's still short gold to advance by about 100 at the 7-minute and 50-second mark, and that means he's going to be up very late, but his economy is going to be absolutely ginormous, probably starting out a trade route instantly, and just playing hyper defensive here.
Yeah, I think given the way how slow Kimo is advancing, I think Shelty really could have afforded that 3rd town center, and been a little bit more, because his advance isn't really that fast for 2 town centers. No. He almost could be advancing pretty close to the same with the 3rd one.
Yeah, going 2 town centers here. You're looking at an 8:30 advance time, possibly 8 minutes if you do it. Well, actually probably 8 minutes because you have so much hunt, and you should be bringing that into your town center so you get that income very, very fast. And Shelty going up at 8:40. Very, very, very late. When you could have grabbed that 3rd town center and been up to the heroic age by 9 minutes, especially with the economy he's got. He's only got pickaxe and hand axe and husbandry, so still very, very behind on that. And we do see a Migdol stronghold coming up right now at 8 minutes 57 seconds, just in front of Kimo's town center here. And Kimo's not going to spot this because he doesn't have the Bitsukos. Oh, the Bitsukos and Rock pop out now, so we may actually get a locust onto these villagers. nice and early
That
if
would
he
be
sends that
big.
forward, but it looks like he's just chilling.
That would be big. Not gonna happen.
Not going to happen. The Migdol will get up. And I think when both these Migdols come up, the line of sight will show for both of them. So Kimo will spot this coming very, very early. We do see Chariot Archers are the unit of choice as well for Shelty.
It is just out of Kimo's line of sight, but he sees the siege works coming up now. He doesn't see the Migdol, but he sees the siege works.
Yeah. And Cavalry are the unit of choice for Kimo, so going to be nice and prepared for this. Oh, and already throwing up a really nice wall here to prevent those siege towers from getting an easy attack onto this Migdol stronghold. And like we said, Kimo's already thrown up that market in the corner of the map, so he's going to be starting this trade. So this push has to work for Shelty, otherwise Kimo's economy is just going to skyrocket here.
Yeah, then it's hard to push 2-on-2 town centers. It would depend though. There's only not a lot of heroes. Kimo over there.
Yeah, Kimo's actually only got the priest and the pharaoh. Well, he's building a couple more priests and getting hands of the pharaoh. He's got 2 Patsukos, which are basically both each a priest in of themselves to deal with the ancestors, because they do have 100% extra bonus damage versus myth units. So they're basically doing a little bit more damage to the ancestors than even a priest would. So they're a good choice if you can keep them alive.
I really like that little wall that's in front of Kimo's Migdol.
Yeah, and Shelty right now is throwing up a Migdol in front of Kimo's Migdol, which was tanking the damage of that Migdol. So so Shelty is completely fine to be fighting underneath this. And now it's up. Now we've got the assistance from both. Got some war elephants coming out, and Kimo has to make mercenary cavalry now to defend against this. And you've got to micro so well here for Shelty. You cannot have those Chariot Archers targeting the Mercenary Cavalry because they have such high base armor. They just tank so much and they get so much value out of them. You want to get those Chariot Archers to be targeting down everything else. We see Priest targeting down the Patsukos. The Ancestors is being cast. Shelty is going for this one. He's probably going to take the Migdol down. And Kimo's already preparing a second Migdol in the back.
Yeah, the wall actually really slowed down that siege push. It actually he only had like 1 attacking for quite a while.
Oh, and I love this from Shelty now, throwing up the watchtower. If he gets crenellations out of this and gets out 2 or 3 towers here, the mercenary cavalry and the camelry become very, very useless in the defense of this town center. But Shelty's already going for the push with the siege towers. He's going to lose every one of them, and that's a lot of resources if he goes for it. He's cost 300.
He has to. I think he almost has to get it down at this point.
Well, he needs to get something extra in here. So those towers will possibly need to be a little bit more forward on top of that town center. Have crenellations out and have at least 3 towers before he goes. Otherwise, it's just the defense is just too easy. But at the moment, Shelty's trading pretty well here.
Yeah, I mean the mercenary cavalry. I mean that is a lot. It is quite expensive for a unit that just will eventually die anyway. And if we can look at the top count, and Shelty's way ahead.
Yeah, he's got the advantage now.
Has a ton. Shelty's got a ton of resources in the bank too. In fact, they both kind of do.
And we see Shelty going for his 3rd town center. I actually would have liked for him to maybe shifting sands onto Kimo's 3rd town center now, instead of going for like an all-in on this town center. He's already got enough value here. We do see Locust Swarm coming down. Oh, get so many villages, every single one. That's absolutely huge for Kimo. My train of thought is completely ruined there. Nice raid.
Yeah, that's could have maybe saved the Locust for those vills in the back, but I mean, obviously he doesn't know. It's nice to kill all those, so that's good. But yeah, I agree with you. I think Shelty should have gone forward and grabbed that forward town center.
Yeah, and now we see that Kimo is after it now. He sent a couple of cavalry over here. The pharaohs there, the villagers here. A bear already over here. So Shelty could still utilize the shifting sands to pick off those villagers and then kind of even out that villager count. But he would have to sacrifice this forward position that he's built.
Heresy. But Shelty can't get over them.
Well, there's the shifting sands as I was talking about. But this will allow Kimo to push through this very, very easily. And Shelty not paying attention to his villagers that are forward. Kind of his only defense against siege towers now. Most of them died. There's only 3 left, which are not enough to defend against the mercenary cavalry push here. Oh, and Shelty still doesn't even pick off all the villagers of Kimo on that town center either.
I feel like Shelty should have shifted villagers down there to grab it, or just walked them down. But now he doesn't have any eco.
Yeah, well, he's on 3 town centers now, and he needs to be. Well, he's not even building villages from all his town centers. He's like spamming mercenary from his town center, his forward town center, to try and hold this location, which it's just not going to work for him.
I think the only way I think he can hold at this point is if he gets that town center, but I don't. Oh, Kimo's up.
Oh, he's up Osiris. Oh, he's up Horus. Oh. There's no, like, Shelty just can't catch up to this. This is going to be impossible. If Kimo just makes a catapult, he can't defend this location. So Shelty has to retreat now. Somehow, boom, get as much damage done as he possibly can. He has hit a raid onto Kimo's villagers here that are sitting idle on this back gold mine, which is gonna be good, but Kimo's just gonna walk away from it and be fine, losing a couple of villagers.
It kind of tells Kimo that, hey, they're idle.
Yeah. But Kimo's already set up his trade, and he's doing this thing that he's been doing recently where he puts multiple sets of walls up to defend his base. They're absolute terrifying. Just, you hate to see it, but it's good. Now Shelty
we got an extra Avenger too from Kimo. I like it.
Oh, and myth units this early in the game when armory upgrades aren't researched are so strong because they have such high base stats, and they just completely tear through those unupgraded military units or human units. You need to have armory upgrades to compete with those those mythic units. It's just not going to happen for another like 10 minutes or so. So they're going to be really, really strong.
Oh yeah. Kimo, so what Kimo, he's coming forward on the right side, but
yeah,
now that he's stabilized, it's just so hard to beat Ra.
Yeah, and Kimo's going to set up something on top of this town, and he's going to move in and he's going to tornado this and try and steal it with his villagers, maybe. No?
That would work too.
He's just attacking the town center with his villagers? Oh, okay, there's the shifting sands. Really nice play by Kimo here to take this town center down, and there's next to nothing that Shelty can do to defend against this. Too many siege towers are on this to kill them off with just the villagers. The Avengers tanking that town center fire, and this town center will be going down. And Shelty comes over with those chariots, but there's still no heroes to deal with the Avenger that's going to come in and just clean up these chariot archers anyways, or tank like a ridiculous amount of resources here. And that's the game. Shelty taps out. GG.
I was just looking at Kimo's walls he's putting next to his trade.
Like, I hate that this is... Look, honestly, this has been something that has been, like, possible since day one. But... people just haven't been doing it for whatever reason, and then people in deathmatch started doing it, and I saw it in deathmatch, and I'm like, if that comes over into supremacy, that's gonna be not a fun time at all. So Kimo abusing this here, and he's been doing it in games recently that I've been seeing on the rated ladder, and it's like, it delays any sort of market pressure that you could do by so much. and it's so cheap and so easy to do, especially when you're Ra and you have a ridiculous amount of gold income from the early camel caravans, plus obviously having all of those upgrades up to quarry already. But really, that's not the story of the game here. The story of the game here is Shelty not understanding his win condition here, not preventing that third town center from going up, and then not preparing for like the mythic age power spike of Kimo just coming in very, very fast here, and also not utilizing all that hunt on the map early.
Yeah, I think the early push went better for Shelty than I thought it would.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's so hard to kill a town center. What I think Shelty should have done is once he got that forward Migdol down, and he was way up in pop. Like once he was at full 130 pop, and Kimo was at 100. That was the time when Shelty should have just kind of pulled off and grabbed that side town center, and that would have put him in a really good position to do that. But he just kept going all in on the town center, and he lost it. I mean, if you don't get it down, and it's the defender's advantage anyway because of mercenaries, then he's over spending to try to get the town center down. When it fails, he's behind an economy, and that's what happened here.
Yeah. I like the idea of the watchtowers, but as soon as he shifted his chariots over to try and prevent the third town center for Kimo, it was like, well, you just already spent all of these resources on this location. You've got 600 gold in Migdols, you've got 400 gold in watchtowers that are just going to go down for nothing. And just like the thought process there was not there. And then you also have to compete with the fact that Kimo still has shifting sands. So he had to choose one or the other. Either go for that town center a bit earlier instead of his back town center by walking his villagers there, or maybe just try and throw up even more towers up on the front, send his pharaoh in to empower it so that the towers could deal with this mercenary cavalry that were getting built, and make a bigger push there with more siege towers once he got the towers up. But like, Kimo played this nearly to perfection based on what Shelty played, I reckon.
Yeah, and that's what I've noticed from Kimo in these games in his tournament so far, is that he's typically defensive early, but he defends in such a way that he's taking better fights and then coming out. And that's kind of how you play Ra anyway, but Kimo's been doing it really well, where he'll be defensive and then just kill more units, be more efficient, and then all of a sudden, whammo, now he's Ra in his late game, and it's this massive counter push, which is what we saw here.
Yeah. I almost think it might have been a better idea for Shelty to go Isis here, considering the way he played. If this was his plan, Isis on with this strategy would have been exactly the same, except with Eclipse as well, and that push would have been even stronger, and he may have been able to clean up both Migdols instead of just the one. But obviously Set was the go, and it didn't work out, and that's the game. First game for Kimo! I reckon.
It is the first game.
I reckon if you guys are unaware of who ChronoJJ is, I would love you to go over to his YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. If you are on the Twitch and you are not following ChronoJJ, you want to hit that follow button. And we're going to move on to game number 2 now.